Welcome to Running with Shane. Today's Saturday the 18th of July and it's just gone 8 AM. In today's video I want to talk about two things: why I started running and why after 15 years I still run. Now, for me to explain this, I have to touch on a couple of topics which I don't want to go into detail about in this video. I want to make individual videos about each one of these topics, but this is just an outline as to how I got started and why I continue to go. So, long story short, I struggled with undiagnosed ADHD, dyslexia my entire life up until my adulthood, when I got my diagnosis. I started smoking weed when I was around 14 and then started drinking properly when I was 16, after I'd left school and got my first wage packet. My drinking went from being a weekend thing to a weekend and a couple of days during the week, and that slowly kept creeping until eventually I was drinking every day. I didn't know at the time, but I was self-medicating. ADHD symptoms, so feelings of being overwhelmed, anxiety. I was also suffering with depression. Now, at the time, the alcohol alleviated those feelings of insecurities, overwhelm, anxiety, and for a short period of time it acted as my friend. It brought me up, it made me feel good. But like any substance, when you abuse it, it starts to turn on you, and that's what happened with me. So my drinking escalated, it became an everyday thing, and then I discovered Valium. My Valium intake increased rapidly. I was using Valium initially to help me sleep because of the alcohol. Excuse me. But then that became my crutch. So I was taking Valium and washing it down with alcohol, which is it's a dangerous combination. In 2011, I had a mental breakdown, which I now refer to as a breakthrough. I decided to stop drinking, stop taking Valium, and get my life back on track. I was very close up until that point of, I'm trying to think of a way I can say this without being taken off YouTube or without having this deleted. Let's just say clocking out. I came close to clocking out. I quit drinking for almost 3 years, and then one Christmas morning, afternoon even, I was sat doing an assignment for uni, and I was stressed out, really overwhelmed and anxious about getting this assignment finished. And my partner at the time said to me, "Why don't you just come downstairs and have a can of beer and relax?" So that's what I did. That one can of beer took me right back to where I left off from, drinking every night, probably more than what I was before I quit. That relapse lasted a year. So it was a year of hell. I started to feel like a hypocrite because I was studying counselling, mental health counselling, and here I am pouring this substance down my throat, not helping myself. So I decided to quit drinking. That was 10 years ago this August. Now, when I finished my degree in 2015, I'd reached 17 stone, which is the heaviest I've ever been. I forgot to mention, it wasn't just alcohol I was addicted to, it was food as well. So, when I finished my degree, I decided that I was going to walk around the field, which was at the top of my road where I lived, and measure it. And it measured 0.4 miles. And I decided from that point that every day I was going to return to that field and jog around it. So the first day I got there, I got about a minute into my run before having to stop and nearly throw up. But I went back the next day, tried again, and I kept doing this jog, walk type of thing until eventually I was able to jog the whole circumference of it. And then that became 2 laps and 3 laps. And I reached a point where I was bored of running around the same field. So I found myself a new field, which was bigger. It had hills and like obstacles and stuff like that inside of it. So I started running around that. And I noticed changes happening in myself. I noticed I was becoming more disciplined. I was feeling less anxious, less overwhelmed. I was feeling happier. I had a spring in my step. The weight was coming off. I was being noticed by people because I wasn't telling anybody what I was doing, but people was noticing that the weight was coming off me and I seemed happier. So I continued to do that. And then there was a point where I stopped running for a while. I can't remember the reason why. But I rapidly deteriorated from that point. It was like unplugging a refrigerator. For the first couple of days, the fruit and veg still looks nice and fresh. But after a week, it's rotten, you know, and that's what it was like for me stopping running. And I didn't know that I felt that way as a result of not running. And then one day I decided to go again. And I went. And I instantly felt this feeling which had been missing for quite some time. It was like, it was instant gratification, but it was almost like a feeling of pride. And yeah, let's just go with that. Let's just go with pride. I felt proud of myself. So I went back the next day and I started again. I did another one, and I just kept expanding the distances each week, and that became quite addictive to me. I went from running 0.4 miles at 17 stone to eventually, I'm just going to turn around here because there's a main road there and it's too noisy, to eventually running 100k ultramarathons, sitting at 12 stone, feeling the best that I'd ever felt. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload a picture of myself when I was 17 stone and just before I ran the 100k ultramarathon, just to show you the difference. So the reason why I continue to run is because I recognise that when I don't, within a couple of days, I start to deteriorate. Running keeps me mentally sharp. It reduces those anxiety, overwhelming symptoms of, anxiety provoking, overwhelming symptoms of ADHD. It keeps me feeling confident. And when I say confident, I'm referring to an internal confidence. I'm not referring to arrogance. It's a different type of feeling. It's a knowing that you have, or that I have, this ability to go the distance, this ability to pull myself out of shit situations. And we all have this ability, but some of us, we just don't know how to get started. And that was also something I struggled with. I struggled with getting started because of judgment. I felt that I was going to be judged by people for running. Really, what I was doing, I was judging myself. I was creating a scenario for myself to avoid doing it. But I pushed through it. Now I don't even think about it. You know, it's not something that ever plays on my mind. I couldn't care less whether somebody thought I was daft for running or not, because I know what it gives me, and as long as I know that, that's all that matters. Anyway, like I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail about the subjects, but I'd like to hear your comments. I'd like to read your comments. I'd like to hear from you what you'd like me to talk about next. You know, if there's a subject that I've mentioned, you know, stick it in the comments. Let me know what you'd like me to talk about, and I'll make another video in more depth of that thing. I don't know how far I'm running today. I've done 5.5 miles now, but I am going to get going, and I wish you all the best weekend. Take care.